Assalamu alaikum. Today in this video we will discuss the topic of autoimmune gastritis. There are many other names which are also used for autoimmune gastritis. One of the name is metaplastic chronic atrophic gastritis. As the word autoimmune gastritis itself indicates that it is an autoimmune disease in which autoantibodies are formed, and the word gastritis means inflammation of the stomach. Actually, autoimmune gastritis is a chronic inflammation of stomach which occurs due to the formation of autoantibodies. Now it has another name, metaplastic chronic atrophic gastritis. Actually, in autoimmune gastritis, there are some metaplastic changes which occur in the epithelium of the body as well as the fundus of the stomach. That's why the word metaplastic is used here. As it is a chronic disease, so we are using the word chronic. Then atrophic means there is atrophic changes which are occurring in the fundus as well as in the body of the stomach, and the gastritis inflammation of the stomach. So autoimmune gastritis is also known as metaplastic chronic atrophic gastritis, and there is another name which is type A gastritis. Now, what is the definition of autoimmune gastritis? Autoimmune gastritis is actually chronic atrophic gastritis in which there is destruction of the oxyntic glands in the stomach body as well as in the fundus. Now, what we mean by destruction of oxyntic glands? Oxyntic glands are specialized glands which are present in the stomach. These glands contain two types of cells. One are the parietal cells. Parietal cells are also known as oxyntic cells, and these parietal cells are responsible for the formation of two things. One is HCl and the second one is intrinsic factor. So there is destruction. In autoimmune gastritis, there is destruction of parietal cells. Then there are another type of cells which are present in the oxyntic glands, and these cells are known as chief cells. These chief cells are responsible for the release of pepsinogen 1. When there is destruction of the oxyntic glands, these two types of cells are destroyed. Number 1, parietal cells are destroyed, so there is no production of HCl, there is achlorhydria. Number 2, there is destruction of chief cells, so there is no production of pepsinogen 1, and there is decrease in the concentration of pepsinogen 1 in the gastric secretions as well as in the serum. Then we should know that how this happens. Actually, it occurs due to the formation of autoantibodies. Two types of autoantibodies are formed in case of autoimmune gastritis. One are anti-parietal cell antibodies, and the second one are anti-intrinsic factor antibodies. Now we can complete our definition of autoimmune gastritis. That autoimmune gastritis is chronic atrophic gastritis which involves destruction of oxyntic glands in the gastric body as well as in the fundus due to circulating anti-parietal cells and anti-intrinsic factor antibodies. Okay. Now, when we perform certain serum tests in case of autoimmune gastritis, then we found there is increased concentration of anti-parietal cell antibodies and anti-intrinsic factor antibodies. There is decrease in the concentration of pepsinogen. There are certain other things which are to be discussed, but we will discuss with the topic. Okay, what are the characteristics of the autoimmune gastritis? Autoimmune gastritis accounts for less than 10% of the cases of chronic gastritis. Actually, chronic gastritis is of two types. There is H. pylori gastritis as well as there is autoimmune gastritis. H. pylori gastritis accounts for more than 90% of the cases of the chronic gastritis, and the remaining less than 10% of the cases are compromised by autoimmune gastritis. Then In H. pylori gastritis, we have discussed that the H. pylori gastritis mainly involves the antral part of the stomach. This is the antrum of the stomach, and in H. pylori gastritis, mainly the antral part of the stomach is involved. However, in autoimmune gastritis, mainly the body and the fundus of the stomach are involved. Then there is one other important difference, that in H. pylori infection, the disease is multifocal. There are multiple foci of the disease. However, in case of autoimmune gastritis, the disease is diffuse. Whole of the body and the fundus are involved. Now, what are the important characteristics of autoimmune gastritis? Number 1. Antibodies to parietal cells and intrinsic factors are formed, which can be detected in gastric secretions and in the serum. This is the point which we have discussed already. Okay, next, there is decreased serum pepsinogen 1 concentration. As we have discussed earlier, that there is destruction of the parietal cells, as well as there is destruction of the chief cells. Due to destruction of chief cells, there is decrease in the formation of pepsinogen 1, due to which there is decreased serum concentration of pepsinogen 1. Then there is endocrine cell hyperplasia. What do we mean by endocrine cell hyperplasia? Whenever there is destruction of the parietal cells in the body and the fundus of stomach, there is achlorhydria. This achlorhydria causes the stimulation of G cells which are present in the antrum of the stomach. These G cells are responsible for the release of gastrin. When gastrin is released, this gastrin, as shown by this diagram, there is achlorhydria. The achlorhydria causes stimulation of the G cell. G cell releases gastrin. This gastrin causes stimulation of another type of cell, which is known as enterochromaffin-like cell. This enterochromaffin-like cell is actually a neuroendocrine cell. So, under the action of gastrin, there is hyperplasia of the enterochromaffin-like cell, that is neuroendocrine cell. We can also call it neuroendocrine hyperplasia. This enterochromaffin-like cell is responsible for the secretion of histamine. Histamine then acts on the parietal cell and causes the release of stimulates the parietal cell and causes the release of HCl. So, there is endocrine cell hyperplasia. Actually, it is enterochromaffin-like cell hyperplasia under the action of gastrin. We can also call it neuroendocrine cell hyperplasia. Then there is vitamin B12 deficiency. As we have discussed that in case of autoimmune gastritis, autoantibodies are formed against the parietal cells as well as against the intrinsic factor. So when there is destruction of intrinsic factor, then vitamin B12 cannot be absorbed from the ileum. It leads to vitamin B12 deficiency, and this vitamin B12 deficiency leads to megaloblastic anemia, and a specialized type of megaloblastic anemia occurs, which is known as pernicious anemia. Then there is defective gastric acid secretion, and it occurs due to the destruction of the parietal cells, as we have discussed earlier, and it is known as achlorhydria. Now, what is the pathogenesis of autoimmune gastritis? Actually, autoimmune gastritis occurs because of the formation of autoreactive T cells. There are CD4 positive T cells which are formed, and these CD4 positive T cells are directed against the parietal cells as well as against the intrinsic factor. They act on the parietal cells and they destroy the parietal cells, especially hydrogen potassium ATPase pump of the parietal cells. The CD4 positive T cells also stimulate the B cells, and when B cells are stimulated, it results in the formation of antibodies. And which type of antibodies are formed? Autoantibodies are formed against the intrinsic factor as well as against the parietal cells. Main destruction to the parietal cells as well as to the intrinsic factor is due to CD4 positive T cells. Autoantibodies do not cause any destruction, but they are important in diagnosis and they can be found in the serum. Destruction is mainly due to CD4 positive T cells, which are then stimulating the B cells and causing the release of autoantibodies, and these autoantibodies are important diagnostic tool. Now, what are the differences between the H. pylori gastritis and the autoimmune gastritis? H. pylori gastritis mainly occurs in the antrum of the stomach. It occurs on the antral part of the stomach, and it is a multifocal disease. However, autoimmune gastritis occurs mainly in the body as well as in the fundus of the stomach. Now, what are the inflammatory cells which are involved in the disease? In H. pylori gastritis, mainly neutrophils and subepithelial plasma cells are involved. Subepithelial means that they are present just beneath the epithelium, in the lamina propria. These plasma cells are present in the lamina propria. However, in autoimmune gastritis, lymphocytes, macrophages, and plasma cells. There are also plasma cells. Lymphocytes, macrophages, and plasma cells are present, and these cells are not concentrated in much quantity in the lamina propria. They are present deep in the glands, deep to the glands. They are present deep to the glands. Then, what happens to acid production? In H. pylori gastritis, the disease is multifocal, that is, it is not diffuse, it is not destroying all the oxyntic glands. So there is hypochlorhydria, that acid production is decreased, but it is not completely absent. However, in case of autoimmune gastritis, there is achlorhydria, there is no acid production. Now, what are the other lesions involved due to H. pylori gastritis or due to autoimmune gastritis? H. pylori gastritis can also lead to inflammatory or hyperplastic polyps, which we will discuss in next video. However, in autoimmune gastritis, there is neuroendocrine hyperplasia, and we have already discussed how this neuroendocrine hyperplasia occurs. Under the action of gastrin, there is proliferation of enterochromaffin like cells, also known as neuroendocrine cells. Now, what will we see in serology? In serology, in H. pylori gastritis, there is for antibodies against H. pylori. However, in autoimmune gastritis, antibodies can be seen against parietal cells as well as against the intrinsic factor. Now, what is sequelae? That if these diseases are not treated, then they can lead to H. pylori gastritis can lead to peptic ulcer, it can lead to mild lymphomas or adenocarcinoma. On the other hand, autoimmune gastritis leads to atrophy, pernicious anemia, adenocarcinoma, or carcinoid tumors. H. pylori gastritis is mainly associated with low socioeconomic status. It mostly occurs in childhood. However, in autoimmune gastritis, as it is an autoimmune disease, so it is associated with other autoimmune diseases. For example, autoimmune thyroiditis, Graves' disease, type 1 diabetes mellitus, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, Addison's disease, myasthenia gravis, and there are certain other diseases including primary ovarian failure or primary hypoparathyroidism. These are the diseases which are associated with autoimmune gastritis. Now, an important point should be kept in mind that autoimmune gastritis mostly is more common in females as compared to males. It is a disease which does not occur at once. Actually, autoantibody, it is a genetic, it runs in families. In 20% of the cases, there is genetic predisposition to the disease. Autoantibodies are present in the person's serum. However, there are no clinical features of the disease. After 10 to 20 years, the chronic atrophic gastritis appears, and then pernicious anemia occurs because of destruction of the intrinsic factor. The mean age at which mostly autoimmune gastritis is diagnosed is 60 years. And there is also evidence that HLA alleles are involved somehow in autoimmune gastritis. Next, we have histology. What is the histology of autoimmune gastritis? Okay, autoimmune gastritis is a disease in which there is the diffuse damage to the mucosa of the body and the fundus of the stomach. When there is diffuse damage to the mucosa, then the mucosa of the body and the fundus becomes thin, and the rugal folds which are present in the mucosa are lost. This is the diagram which is showing the body of the stomach, and we can easily see that there is atrophy of the gastric mucosa. There is atrophy of the gastric mucosa, and there are some megaloblastic changes in the nuclei. We can see that the nuclei are enlarged. Nuclei of the epithelial cells are enlarged. This is known as epithelial megaloblastosis. There is epithelial megaloblastosis. Then we have already discussed that after atrophy there is also metaplasia. So we can see in the glands as well as in the epithelium there is replacement of the epithelial cells by these goblet cells. This is known as intestinal metaplasia. Also, there is some inflammatory infiltrate including the macrophages, lymphocytes and the plasma cells. So this is the diagram, this is a histological diagram which is showing the atrophic changes in the body of the stomach as well as intestinal metaplasia. This is the histology of the antrum of the stomach. As we know that in autoimmune gastritis there is no atrophy of the antrum, but there are certain inflammatory changes which occur in the antrum. Deep to the glands we can see inflammatory infiltrate involving the macrophages, lymphocytes and plasma cells. This red color is showing the blood, and it is which is showing inflammation. And there is okay, so this is the histology of the antrum of the stomach showing the inflammation. Now this is also the histology of the antrum. It is actually a special type of stain known as gastrin stain, and this gastrin stain is showing the gastric cells which are present in the antrum. G cells which are present in the antrum. This brown color is showing the G cells. This is gastrin stain. These G cells are present in the antrum, so we can say that this is the histology of the antrum of the stomach. If these G cells are not present, then it means that there is atrophy. Now here at this time there is no atrophy, because in autoimmune gastritis there is no atrophy of the antrum. Atrophy of the antrum occurs in case of H. pylori gastritis. This is the diagram showing the megaloblastic changes, intestinal showing the metaplastic changes. This is the intestinal metaplasia, which there is replacement of the normal columnar epithelial cells by the goblet cells. So in autoimmune gastritis there is diffuse mucosal damage. Rugal folds are lost in the fundus and the body due to vitamin B12 deficiency. There is also megablastic changes in the epithelial cells, epithelial megablastosis. Then there is inflammatory infiltrate which is showing lymphocytes, macrophages and plasma cells, and these inflammatory cells are present in the form of lymphoid aggregates, and they are present deep to the glands. Then sometimes it may occur that there are some residual areas in the body and the fundus, and these residual areas which are non-affected areas appear like polyps or nodules. Then there is metaplasia, in which there is replacement of the epithelial cells by the goblet cells, and there is also a neuroendocrine hyperplasia because of hyperplasia of the neuroendocrine cells or enterochromaffin cells. Now, what are the clinical features of autoimmune gastritis? The important clinical features of autoimmune gastritis includes anemia. Actually, it is megaloblastic anemia. There is also atrophic glossitis. Atrophic glossitis means that the tongue becomes smooth and it is beefy red. Then there is epithelial megaloblastosis. There is malabsorptive diarrhea. There is also peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy mainly occurs due to vitamin B12 deficiency, and there is paresthesia as well as numbness of the limbs. There is limb weakness. There are certain spinal cord lesions. There is sensory ataxia, and Romberg sign becomes positive, and there are loss of vibration and position sensations. There is also damage to the cerebrum, which may result in memory loss and psychosis. Actually, when there is replacement of vitamin B12, then it can reverse the anemia, that is the megaloblastic anemia can be cured, but the neurological changes which have occurred cannot be reversed and they are irreversible. Thank you.